This is going to be a really interesting topic of gamification. Let's explain to people, first of all, what is gamification?
Okay, yeah, that's probably a good place to start. So what I would say is, if you're watching this on the replay, just give me a yes or no answer in the comments as to whether you've even heard of gamification before, because it's one of those things that once I explain what it is, you'll be like, oh yes, I see that everywhere. I just didn't know it had a name for it. But most people don't know what it is. And if you are watching live, you can play along as well. Have you heard of gamification before? Yes or no? So let's explain a little bit. It's one of those things that gets understood differently and gets different reactions from different people. So I've had people tell me that it is manipulating people into doing things they don't want to do. It is just a bit of fun, that it sounds like a gammy leg. Like, I've heard all sorts of weird things around it. Even the professionals can't agree on a set definition for it. They all have their own little tweaks. So what I do, instead of giving like a definition, is to kind of give a summary. And then hopefully as we're discussing it, I'll give some case studies and examples that you'll understand. So what I tend to say is, we've all played a game of some sort, from conkers to cricket, from tiddlywinks to chess. We've played tennis. We've played, a board game, a video game, any of these things, right? Within those games are built tools and techniques and elements that motivate you to keep playing, even when you're bored, even when it's frustrating, even when the person that you're playing against is really annoying you. It's encouraging you to keep going, because you want to get to that next level. You want to beat your opponent. You want to beat that end of level monster, whatever it is. So what I do is I take those tools and elements and techniques from the games world and put them into non-game settings so that those can be more successful too. We look at what it is that makes those games so compelling, and we adapt that. So it's not making your project into a big 3D game environment, which is what a lot of people think. It's more like taking learnings from human behavior and psychology and learning and development and management and marketing and all of these other areas, as well as game design, and using them to improve on whatever it is you're working on. Now, my specialism are in memberships, online courses, launches, so things like challenges and online summits, things like that, and social media. But you can gamify pretty much anything to get better results, if it is not already inherently motivating. So if it's boring, if you struggle to get it done, gamification could probably work to help you get it done.
Yeah, I love it. And this is great for, a lot of people who follow me are not the most disciplined people. I am not myself. So the creative brains who often are find my stuff appealing, they're not great at doing things for the sake of doing it, even when it's boring. Yeah. So gamification is a way, from what you're saying, we can use gamification on ourselves in order to do the stuff we know we should be doing, but which we're not great at sticking to or getting done. And we can also use it on our clients in the courses we're running, the memberships we're running, 5-day challenges, those kind of things. Because once you start running one of those things, you realize how bloody hard it is to get people, even when they've paid you a large sum of money. Some of those things are free, it's even harder. But generally, the more people pay, the more seriously people take things. But even then, getting them to follow through and do what you're trying to do in order that you can help them achieve what they're trying to achieve is sometimes feels like you're dragging a sack of coal over an obstacle course. It really, dead body or something. It's like, I'm trying to help you here. So,
just do the blooming work. Just do it. Please do it.
And they're ducking and diving in order to ensure that they fail. That's my experience of running group programs. I mean, it's not obviously all of them. Some people will, but the people that stick at it and do the things you're suggesting get the results, and you want them to do that. So, well, maybe we start there. Like, if you're running a course, because I don't know, they're both such interesting topics. Running things for other people, but also using it on yourself is really interesting. When you're running a course for other people, what can you do in order to get people to do the kind of things I'm talking about, do the things you want them to do?
So I guess the first thing, and this is going to sound probably quite obvious, but it's really important, is don't just create the course for yourself. So a lot of people will create a course and they're like, you know what, if I was creating the best course in the world for me, I would create, videos that I could access at any time. I would create this, I would create that. Now, the people watching, yourself, myself, we all probably find different things fun and find different things motivational. So you have to create different options for different personality types. So you need to think, who are the people that are actually in my audience, not just what I think. So you could survey them. You can actually find out what kinds of personalities are in there. Do they like collaboration, or do they like competition, or do they like a bit of both? Do they like, basic learning stuff? Do they like to learn through video? Do they prefer to have notes? Do they like to have audio? Do they have like a combination of those things? And think, what can I do to make a scenario that's going to make them as motivated as possible? The other thing to remember, and some people don't like it when I say this, but it is true. Not everybody joins a course to learn the thing that you're teaching. So you're never going to get 100% of the people through your course, because not everyone is there to learn the thing that you're teaching. Some people might be there to see how you run a course, or to network with some of the people who join your course. They might be there for lots of other reasons. So you really need to have a bit of a brain dump and think, why have I joined courses in the past? Have I joined every course that I've joined to learn the thing that they're teaching? Probably not. So what are the other reasons it could be? What are the kinds of things that could motivate people or find interesting? If you're the kind of business that uses, I don't know, Myers-Briggs or some type of personality differentiator, look at the kinds of personalities within that and think, how can I create content? How can I create a course around, because the content doesn't necessarily have to change, that will enable those different types of personalities to get what they need in order to get what they need. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. So can you give us an example of how, I used to have a course called the Pioneer Program with 6 modules, and we would ask people to, study the content each week. I can't remember how long it was. Maybe every 2 weeks they studied the module, and then they had to do some actions and then turn up at a Q&A. Is there a way that we can minimize the number of people dropping off and fading away, which is one of the biggest problems with group programs?
Yeah. So if that's the idea behind it, is that they watch the videos, then they show up for a Q&A. What I would say is that there are certain personality types that just won't get on board with that model. So you'll need to be like, if you do this, let's say that so one of the personality types that we talk about in gaming is socializers. So these are people who are all about helping other people and being held accountable by other people. So you outlining this setup is great for people who are like me, who are achievers. I like to tick things off and get things done. But socializers, they might be like, after week 1, well, I'm not actually getting anything social out of this. So maybe you say, if you come along to this Q&A, afterwards, we're going to have half an hour of networking. It's very simple, but it might be enough to just spark those socializers into taking action, whereas they wouldn't have before. And in that networking session, you can say, this is an opportunity for you to help each other to get more out of the course. So this is for you guys to work together. Okay. So do you see, it's adding in half an hour to something you're already delivering that will make a big difference to those personality types who aren't necessarily motivated by ticking things off.
Yeah, that's interesting. And because we introduced a session that was run by my coach, but was just a networking session. And so it was better that I wasn't there, because people might see me as the kind of expert and be a bit, I don't know, nervous about speaking honestly. So Sam could ask them, like, how are you getting on? What are you stuck on? They go like, oh, I don't understand this module 2. I'm pulling my hair out. They're much freer to say that without me, but also they just could talk to each other and say, how are you getting on? And share the experience of trying to get a business off the ground and be very honest. So like you say, that would really, I hadn't realized that would appeal to a certain kind of person. And that might be, that might be the thing that makes a certain percentage of buyers jump over the line to buying in the first place, when they hear that you've got this monthly networking thing or whatever.
What I would say, though, is it might work even better if you restrict who can attend those based on what they've done. So if they have watched the week 1 videos, then they get to they get to go to the monthly networking, but that it's a choice, because some people will not want to go to the networking events. They're like, no, I just want to learn the thing. So if you use that as a reward, then the kinds of people who are there just to network will also get the learnings as well, and they'll also get the results. So that way, and I talk about the win-win a lot in what I do, you're winning because more people are getting results from your course, but they're winning because they get what they want out of it, which is the networking. So rather than just offering it to everybody, making it a kind of rewards-based system, which I guess is inherently gamification, like what you would think of in terms of gamification, giving somebody a reward.
Yeah, I tend to think of it as sort of badges and things. Nick is watching here, and he's creating a course, a therapy course. He's a therapist, and he wants to use this platform called Experientify.
Oh yeah.
Which has game. It's like a course platform that's got gamification built in. I don't exactly know what that means, but it is, because I hadn't realized it's about catering to different people's personalities. I thought of it as the sort of badges and whatever else, but those are part of it, right? But you get
they can be
a reward for something.
They can be. So it's hard, because there are a certain number of people who, when I say gamification, do think badges and leaderboards, and that's all it is. They think, if you achieve this, you'll get a badge. But I was saying I'm an achiever. I like to tick things off. Badges appeal to my personality type because I want to get all the badges. But there are certain personality types who do not care about badges. They think they're silly, they're not interested. So, if you want to add in badges for the achievers, 100% go for it. I don't know all of the functionality of Experientify, but I have had a quick look. And it looks like, that kind of platform where they give you that option to add levels and add badges and give points for things. I'm sure this is built into it already, but I would just say, isn't it, Nick? You need to make sure that in your legal disclaimers, when people sign up for the course, you say something along the lines of any prizes, points, badges, things like that are given virtually or otherwise are the property of us. We have the authority to change what they mean at any time. And if you were to leave this scenario, they couldn't be exchanged for anything else.
Right.
Just to cover your back, because people will be like, if you decide suddenly, oh, actually, this badge doesn't work if I give it for 10 points, it would work better if I give it for 20. You will have people complaining, big style. Whereas if you say, look, we want to make this the best experience for everybody, so we are going to change it as we go along, then you can do. You also don't want people leaving a course and going, well, I've still got this many points yet left and I haven't claimed them for anything. Yeah. You need to make sure that it's very clear that they are virtual and they are just within the realm, the world of the course itself.
Yeah, that's a lesson I've learned, where, if you're going to make something important, then you better and set rules around it and try to get people to take it seriously. Then don't be surprised if they take it seriously. I remember, a nice example is when I ran an in-person course in London early on in my career. I bought these childhood sticky badges that had like dinosaurs and cows and things on them, and it had like puns that said a mahoosive success or whatever with a cow, I don't know what, and that kind of stuff, and frogs. And then I would say, like, if you did what you were supposed to do last week, come up and get your badge. You wouldn't believe how these grown-ups were excited about it. I mean, they really wanted that badge, and they were allowed to choose which badge they wanted, whether they wanted a cow or frog or whatever. You have these kind of grown-up, middle-aged men and women, just getting really excited about it.
It's weird. People are often surprised by this, but I think adults are just big kids. We're still motivated by the same thing as kids. I don't know why we get to like age 14 and all of a sudden we're not allowed to have gold stars anymore. Like, why not? They work. They work for me. They work for you. I don't know why not. But you did just hit upon something that is really important in gamification, which is autonomy. So you said they get the choice of which sticker they get. Right. And if you just said cow stickers for everybody, I don't really want a cow sticker. I'm plant-based. I'm not interested in that. Yeah. I want the frog. Like, thank you very much.
Catastrophe cows.
Yeah, exactly. So you might actually demotivate people by choosing which prize they get if you choose it wrong. Whereas you gave them the choice. You said you can have any of these. And that is absolutely massive in terms of how motivating or demotivating something is for people. Like picking the right prize, picking the right rewards. They don't have to be huge. Like that's another misconception, is that you have to give things away that are really expensive in order to motivate. You've just given a perfect example. Children's stickers motivated people enormously. It's not about the price, it's about the value.
Yeah. When you said about those different types of, you said socializer, achiever, what are the other types?
The other types are an explorer. So explorers, if you were playing a video game, they'd be the people that were going around more interested in finding what they could find in the world, looking for hidden Easter eggs, like hidden things. They are the kinds of people that on a course, they would be the ones that would find your grammar mistakes. Right. They would be the ones that would find the like little things here and there that you'd forgotten to link to, but they accidentally find it. Like they're more motivated by exploring the opportunities, the world itself, than necessarily the content. So yeah, there's them. And then the final one is killer, which sounds horrendous, doesn't it? Now, in a video game environment, they are the kinds of people that would go around shooting people so that they can get to the top of the leaderboard, even if they're on their own team, because they're all about achievement above others. So if you're playing a board game with other people, they're the people that will put a train track in front of yours so you can't get any further. Ooh. Now there's nothing wrong with these kinds of personalities, and they only work out to about 1 to 5% of the population. But you have to build for them as well, because they're going to be there. They're the ones who are going to try to cheat your system. They're the ones who are going to find any bugs. Like, they are very interesting, and they like leaderboards. So you've got to know like what kinds of personalities you've got in your audience. You've got to know who to build for, because in some audiences, in some communities, you'll have mostly socializers, in which case get rid of the leaderboards. You don't need them. So it's fascinating.
I mean, is there I suppose I was trying to think creative people where, the buzz is creating something original. Where do they fall in that model?
Well, you can be more than one. So like any personality type things, they're not 100%. Yeah. 100%. So you might be creating things for the sake of creating it and creating something lovely, but that might be because you like to achieve the finished product. So it might be achiever. It might be because you like the status that it gives you amongst other people. So it actually means you're a socializer. It might mean that you're like a combination of all the different things. And also to say that these personality types were designed specifically for video games, so they don't work for everything. And that's why I said, earlier I said maybe you use Myers-Briggs, maybe you use, what are the other ones? There's loads of different personality indicators. And I would say try and fit in as many of those as you can, because if you just stick to a video game scenario and you're not running a video game, it's not going to work. So yeah, it's about, well, you just said you've got a community full of creatives. They can be creative with this, and that's the fun of it. Like, you can be really creative. It might not work straight away, but you can tweak it and test and learn, and you can actually involve your community in that as well. Would you like to see this? Yes or no?
Yeah. Kira mentions the book Hooked: How to Build Habit-Forming Products, which is the kind of classic on, which I guess is a gamification book, isn't it? I interviewed Nir Eyal, the author of that, because after writing this book that became the gospel for all these like super addictive social media apps, at Facebook, everyone had the book on their desk. He then wrote a book about how to be indistractable. So how you could then escape the game, the addictive qualities of things like social media. And he's a lovely guy. And I interviewed him on my podcast, and I said, "Isn't this all your fault, Nir?" And he goes, "Well, when I wrote the first book, I was trying to help people create apps that said stuff like, help you get fit and so on. Help you, Couch to 5K is a classic. I guess you would call that a kind of gamified app. And
100%.
Hugely successful. But I think possibly even more interesting for people will be how you can use this on yourself to get stuff done. And like I guess this would count as gamification, but I've been working with Helen Pritchard on my LinkedIn presence recently for the past 6 weeks. And what I do is I used an app, because I have very bad memory, so I can't remember. The idea is every day you write at least 10 comments, you send out 10 connection requests, and you post 1 to 4 posts. and I couldn't remember how many I'd done of each. So I got this app called Tally.
Nice.
And what Tally does is that, you know, I set it up with a particular heading, so it actually says those 3 things. And then you just, you know, dob on it when you've done it. And you can see the number go up. So I know when I've hit 10. Now, what would be even cooler is if it sort of gave you a little animation when you hit 10 out of 10 and, you know, a little kind of explosion or something of fireworks. Because it's funny how our brain really loves those kind of things. But I guess that would be an example, wouldn't it? Is that what you would mean by that concept of gamifying your own social media?
I mean, yes. What I would say, that app would be much better if it had like streaks, so how many days you'd managed to achieve it for, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, a perfect example of this is Duolingo. So gamifying a course. Duolingo is amazing at this. They remind you each day, you know, you're going to miss your 15-day streak or that kind of thing. But gamifying yourself. So a simple thing could be, I hate emails. Okay. I've got a mental block around emails. It's never going away. So what I would do is I would say, right, let's see how many emails I can get done in 10 minutes today. I'm only making myself do it for 10 minutes and I'm going to see how many I can do. Tomorrow, all I have to do is beat how many I did yesterday in 10 minutes. That's it. Very simple. Now, I'm an achiever personality, so I'm going to do it because I like to do it and I've decided that that's what I want to do. But if you're not that personality type, you might want to give yourself a reward if you do it or a punishment if you don't. So some people are more motivated by the stick than the carrot, right? Another example would be I did the London to Brighton cycle ride.
Yeah.
I hate cycling. Like, I find it painful. I find it difficult. I despite, you know, the fact that I built up my training, built up my stamina, even on the day itself, I was like, I'm not fit enough for this. Like, I trained for it and I still, like, I hated every minute of it. And there was gale force winds and hailstones. And it was hammering it down all day. But I was doing it for charity and I'd agreed to do it. So I was like, right, I've got to get through this. So on the lead up to it, I created myself a plan, like a training plan, which I could tick off because I'm an achiever. And on the day itself, I would say, if you get to the next break stop, you can have a hot chocolate, which is my reward. And then you can decide whether or not you want to continue. Now, obviously, I'm going to continue. I'm not going to stop after cycling 12 miles or 14 miles or whatever, when out of a 64-mile, I'm just going to keep going. But it's basically tricking your mind into doing stuff you don't want to do. I didn't want to be cycling. My shoes were full of water. Like, I didn't want to keep going. I was not interested in keeping on going. My brain was going, you're going to die. What are you doing? This is insane. But I was tricking myself. If you just get to this bit, you can have a hot chocolate. You can ring your mum, like, you know, those kinds of things. And it's simple. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to create, like, it's wonderful that you found an app that you wanted to use, but you don't have to do that. It can be as simple as, if you're a socializer, telling somebody else, let's work on it together. Like, let's have a date in the diary once a week where we work on this thing and we keep each other accountable. That way you get to see your friend, you get to help them. Oh, there we go. So Kira says, I play all sorts of mental games whilst running. Exactly. Like, that's what you've got to do to motivate yourself to do things you don't want to do. And there's bound to be loads of things in your business that you're like, God, I really hate doing that thing. And so I would say do it first and trick your brain into doing it.
Right. And that it's kind of dopamine hacking, isn't it? Because if I set a goal of 10 comments, which is the bit I find hardest on LinkedIn, when I hit number 10 and because I've set it as the goal and because I've got this app, I get that little bit of dopamine hit that says I've done it. And that works really well. Fits for ADHD too, says Nick. I guess it's like in terms of the cycling reward.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does. I've had a lot of people say that about the things that I've gamified in the past, that they work well for neurodivergent people, particularly ADHD, because of that focus.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
For sure.
Yeah, you know, that could be good. So I don't know if this is your 50-second, but you set a goal to do 52 guest expert sessions this year, didn't you? I hope it's okay to make that public. And which you've now achieved. Was that kind of a gamification thing as well?
Yeah. Well, yes, of course. So I I decided, so part of the problem that I have with gamification is that a lot of people don't know what it is. And so I don't only need to sell, I need to tell people what it is and then explain to them how it will help them, and then I can sell. So it's a long process. So I was like, how can I shortcut this, getting as many people to know what it is as possible? So I was like, right, I'm going to do 52 guest expert slots this year. So interviews on podcasts, interviews in groups, on, you know, all those kinds of things. That's one a week. And I set this in April. So it was a bit of a stretch. And yes, by the end of this, in fact, by the end of next week, I will have completed all of them. So in 7 months, I will have done it all. And it was kind of a similar thing whereby, like, if every week I can work a little bit towards this, then I will get there by the end of the year. And even if I don't, I will have done a lot more than I would have if I didn't set myself this mission, if I didn't set off this target. And every time I was booking one, I was like, that's another one, that's another one. And then off the back of that, how can I make even more out of this? So deliver it and then get a testimonial off the end of it, and then share that testimonial and then get more bookings. And it kind of created a bit of a snowball effect. But by setting myself that mission, that target, and sharing that with people, the socializers in my network want to help me.
Yeah.
And I help myself because I'm an achiever. So yeah, it was gamification. And it is also how I make myself do things. That's how I got into gamification, because my other half said to me, you don't exercise unless you set yourself a challenge. And I was like, no, I don't. That's nonsense. And then I thought, oh yeah, he's right. I literally gamify everything. That's how I get things done. I give myself a challenge to do.
Love it. I've got a client who's just gone self-employed and he's doing really well. But he's concerned, you know, he wants to book this really expensive travel trip in the new year. And so I said to him, like, set a goal. And when you hit that goal by the end of this year, then you're going to put the deposit down. You're going to commit to this thing you want to do. And like, set the goal, put it on, like, I've got a wipeable whiteboard somewhere. Set it in front of your monitor, and people can't see it on Zoom, but you can see it. And it goes, you know, 15 grand to go, 10 grand to go, 7. And then when you get to 0, you book it. So you, rather than doing this whole going backwards and forwards of, well, can I afford to go? Can I not? Well, pick a number and say, if I made that number, you can, and then just work on it. And his partner is helping him with the business, so she can kind of update it every day. And I think that's getting a result as well. And I think those kind of, when I've done those financial goals, put them on a board in front of me, and then you update it every day. It's really, it really works for me. Just simple. I mean, just so simple, isn't it? But it really is effective.
It is. And I think, what Nick was saying. So for some people, they will do better in that scenario if they reward themselves at the end of each week for completing the tasks. And then maybe a big reward at the end. For some of us, a big reward at the end is enough. And what I tend to do, if I'm doing a massive launch, I'll give myself 3 goals. So like a good goal, a better goal, and the best goal. And I will give myself different rewards depending on which one I hit. So no matter what I do, I'm not beating myself up for not achieving the most insane goal I've given myself. I still get something because I've still put the effort in. I've still worked hard. So yeah, again, it's about understanding yourself and understanding what's actually going to motivate you, because you might say, oh, I'll buy myself a camper van if I get this launch done. But actually, week to week, you're like, so that's such an impossible task. That's so far away. I'm never actually going to get to that goal. So you don't do your work for some people. So yeah, you really need to understand.
That's a really good point. I mean, that's the big thing I'm getting from you that I hadn't appreciated, that it's that catering to different personality types is absolutely at the heart of this thing. And I hadn't appreciated that at all. Should we take questions from any? There's a few people watching live right now. I'm sure we'll get other people later. Maybe you can keep an eye on the thread in the group in particular, and we'll see what people say. If anyone's got questions, post them in the comments. If people want to find out more about you, Kimba, and where to connect with you, where's the best place to do that?
So we are at Kimba Digital everywhere. I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook, but we're on Twitter and LinkedIn and those places as well. We are starting up a free Facebook group all about gamification called The Business Game, so you can find us there. What I would say is it's not going to be like other free business Facebook groups, because obviously we're going to gamify it. So even if you're like, oh, I'm intrigued to see how she gamifies a free Facebook group, request to join. It's not open yet. We're going to let everyone in all at once when it is ready. And then the other thing you can do is take the free quiz. So we created a quiz and it's all about how you can use gamification to improve the results that you get in challenges, courses, launches, or social media. It's multiple choice, takes less than 3 minutes to do. And at the end, it spits out a PDF with tips and suggestions based on what you've picked throughout. So I will pop the link in here for you to. But yeah, it does take less than 3 minutes. It says on there it takes 3 minutes, but it's multiple choice. So I'll pop it. I'm not sure where. I'm sure you'll get that there, but I don't think it'll go into the comments. I don't know if you'll be able to put that up as a banner or something. But yeah, it's it's an interesting one.
Post it down here, and then I'll put it up as a banner. If you can do.
I think people think, oh my gosh, gamification. I have to turn, I have to start big. Like I have to gamify every step of my course. I have to consider all of the different business types. I have to do all of these things. But you could start as simple as putting a poll in your social media or using a quiz function in your social media. It could be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be this huge, over the top, massive thing. You can start small, because the other thing is, if your audience isn't used to it, they're not going to know how to engage with it straight away. So it's a good idea to build up from nothing and to use it in your market research, to use it to get better engagement so that when you then are selling, you get better results.
Great. Okay. Did you put a link in there? Because I can't see it at the moment. Oh, you
I put it in the private chat.
Okay. Yeah. Great. I'll put that in here.
I can't put it into the comments.
How do I get back from there to the... There we go, in the comments. And then if you've got a link to the group,
I'll pop that in now. Yeah.
You can put it in the comments if you want. I think it will go straight.
I can't. It won't let me.
Oh, you can't. When they let you?
No.
Is there some button I have to? I don't know. There might be some button that allows me to do that. But anyway, okay, good. I'll put it in here. Achieve.
But yeah, I think it's something that people say everywhere as well. So you might think, oh, it sounds experimental. It doesn't sound, it sounds like something that, is new, but it's been around for 20 years. Like it's in, like you said, Couch to 5K. It's in all the fitness apps. It's in a lot of apps, actually. It is. I saw it on This Morning where they used a big wheel to generate answers to something. It's in newspapers, it's on billboards, it is everywhere. It's not new, it's a thing that is everywhere now. And people, once they hear about it, they're like, oh yeah, I know what that is. Like I do know it. It's just I didn't know there was a name for it.
Yeah. Have you written a book? Are you working on a book?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, because I think this would be a great book. And I think this is something you could probably get a deal for.
So I'm not really talking about it much, but I have started writing a book because I kind of sit myself in the middle. So you tend to get gamification experts that are highly academic. And so, they teach at university and their books are very academic. And then you get kind of people who've come from the gamer background. So again, they're full of their own gamer jargon and they have their own understanding. And whilst there are some people that kind of fit into the business niche and there are some that fit into the course niche, I feel like there is space for a more kind of pared down, easy to understand for Joe Blogs kind of book, on this subject.
Yeah, and I think there's a great theme. I mean, there are two sides to it, and it's almost worth separating it out, really. But in the book, you could probably cover both sides. But gamify your business is kind of a good angle, or gamify. And if you're going to, for expert guest expert sessions, and if you're going to continue doing them, just focusing on gamifying your marketing would be a really popular topic. But it depends with all these things, and with the book, you've of course got to consider what you want it to lead to, and what kind of work you want to get out the back of this. Whether you're going to sell your own course or consult or whatever, and that determines the focus of the book, really, because you want to make sure it brings you for the next couple of years after the book comes out, you want it to lead to all sorts of obviously new wonderful opportunities for you.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, we do work one-to-one as a consultancy. That's what we do. People come to us and say, can you gamify my course or my membership or my launch? but we will be bringing out programs in the future, and we do mini courses at the moment. But it's one of those things where, yeah, if we bring a book out, it needs to have longevity. It needs to be something that I'll continue to want to do for however many months to come. Yeah, but I'll obviously gamify that process as well, because otherwise I won't do it.
Good. Yeah, you could. Yeah, I mean, gamifying writing is a big one, isn't it? And a few people have done bits of that. Obviously, there are some well-known. Well, NaNoWriMo, I guess, is one of those. Write a novel in 30 days, and
that's now, isn't it? It's happening right now.
Oh yeah, it's in November. Yeah. So yeah, that's been really interesting. Thank you for Kimba. I really appreciate that, and thanks everyone who came along and commented. Yeah. Okay, so you're in the Facebook group, so keep an eye on the thread in there. People might have questions afterwards. If you're watching the replay, you can always type #replay so we know. And people can find you at your Facebook group and take your quiz, which is here, which we've shown before. Great. Thanks, Kimba.
Thank you so much. It's been really fun, and good luck to everyone with your own gamification stuff. Let me know how it works, and if you come across any good examples, because I love to hear of good examples of gamification. Thank you.
Great, yeah.